Throughout history, few individuals have wielded the power to shape and shake the world as profoundly as J. Robert Oppenheimer. A man of remarkable intellect and deep-seated conflicts, Oppenheimer's life danced precariously between the shadows of morality and the blinding light of scientific progress. Renowned as the father of the atomic bomb, he was the driving force behind the Manhattan Project. The project is responsible for delivering the most devastating weapon the world had ever seen. His story, however, is not one of unmitigated glory. It's a tale of ambition, anguish, genius, guilt, success, and scandal. Was he a hero who helped end a bloody world war, or just a villain who unleashed untold destruction? The answer, like Oppenheimer himself, is complex and intriguing. He's a man of many stories. So get comfortable as we uncover the life and legacy of Robert Oppenheimer. Born on April 22, 1904 in New York City to wealthy German Jewish immigrants, Julius Robert Oppenheimer was a prodigy in the truest sense. He showed a profound knack for science and literature at a young age. His father ran a business importing textiles and made a lot of money doing it. To give you an idea of how rich his family was, their New York penthouse had paintings of Van Gogh and Picasso on the wall. The issue with Robert was that he grew up spoiled. Everything he wanted his parents would get for him, and this caused emotional problems later in life. In school, Robert was extremely bright but boastful, and he was bullied as a result. At summer camp, other boys would strip him of his clothes and make him sleep in an ice house overnight. Oppenheimer withdrew inwards, putting his mind towards physics. He once told his brother, quote, "I need physics more than I need friends," end quote. He was gifted, however, and raced through school absorbing material at a frightening pace. He graduated at age 17. After a brief time at Harvard, he would attend Cambridge University. Being in a different country, the young student was isolated and lonely. His family wasn't there to spoil him anymore. Now Oppenheimer had a tutor named Patrick Blackett. Blackett wanted Oppenheimer to do hands-on lab work, which he hated. Oppenheimer developed a seething hatred for Blackett. Things would come to a head in 1926 when Oppenheimer injected an apple with poison and placed it on Blackett's desk. He then would leave the room and go on vacation. News got back to Cambridge University, and the administrators decided to press charges for attempted murder. That would have probably been the end of Oppenheimer, except his rich father managed to talk his son out of the situation. One of his friends, Freeman Dyson, would later recall, Oppenheimer just had the inability to sit still and just see things through. But even with these traits, Oppenheimer became somewhat of an academic icon because of his brilliant mind. But despite personal struggles, Oppenheimer's stature in the scientific community continued to rise. In 1941, he was invited to join the Manhattan Project, the U.S. government's ultra-secret program to develop an atomic bomb. Accepting this role would forever change the course of his life, and indeed, the course of history. The genesis of nuclear warfare began to take shape in the United States with a singular pivotal letter penned by physicist Leo Szilard and endorsed by none other than Albert Einstein. The letter, dispatched to President Franklin D. Roosevelt in August of 1939, described how an atomic bomb would theoretically be possible. Within the correspondence, there was also a dire warning. Germany had already begun to stockpile sources of uranium from Czechoslovakia. This suggested that the Nazis were on a path to an atomic bomb of their own. The gravity of this communication, coupled with the escalation of World War II, called for an urgent response from the United States. And in 1942, the Manhattan Project was formed. This was a colossal scientific and military collaboration endeavor to forge a weapon of unimaginable power, a deterrent so formidable that it would end the war and discourage future conflicts. Central to this historic mission was the appointment of J. Robert Oppenheimer. It was an unparalleled leadership role, marking the beginnings of his legacy. Oppenheimer seemed an unconventional choice for the project director. He was a theoretical physicist, not an engineer. And to add to this, his political associations raised some eyebrows among security agencies. Regardless, General Leslie Groves, the military head of the project, saw in Oppenheimer the rare combination of brilliant intellect, charisma, and administrative expertise. As a leader, his quick mind proved to be a huge asset. With his intellect, he could pierce through all the noise and immediately get to the heart of a problem. Without this unique mindset, the atomic bomb may have never come to be. Oppenheimer's first major challenge was the establishment of the secret laboratory where the bomb would be designed and constructed. He chose the isolated location of Los Alamos, New Mexico. He envisioned it as a hub of scientific innovation. It would be in these remote surroundings that Oppenheimer transformed from an academic into a leader. In a way, the fate of the entire world was in his hands. Oppenheimer would rise to the challenge and manage to show remarkable leadership skills. He bridged gaps between scientists of different disciplines, managed egos, and diffused conflicts. Despite the intense pressure, he maintained a focus on the scientific community, even creating a school for the children of his team and ensuring the overall welfare of those under his charge. While the technical challenges of the Manhattan Project were formidable, Oppenheimer's role extended beyond the scientific realm. He managed to navigate the political intricacies of a high-stakes, government-funded endeavor. He also had to grapple with the ethical implications of his work, implications that carried the heaviest of burdens. But ethics was not the only challenge. Developing the atomic bomb required overcoming two primary technical challenges. One was obtaining enough material capable of sustaining a nuclear fission chain reaction, and the second was engineering a device that could trigger those chain reactions. Uranium-235, a naturally occurring but scarce isotope, and plutonium-239, a synthetic element, were identified as suitable materials. The reason for the choice of these elements was due to their ability to start a sustained or runaway chain reaction when hit with a neutron particle, a feat that was thought to be impossible just 2 decades earlier. With the ancient U-235 present, what science calls a critical mass, those neutrons bombard other uranium atoms, causing them to split and split still others. The result? A chain reaction. Over 1 million billion atoms exploding within 2 seconds. But extracting uranium-235 from the much more prevalent uranium-238, or producing plutonium-239 in a nuclear reactor, was a colossal task, a task that required unprecedented industrial efforts. So the engineers set to work designing, testing, and ultimately creating a mechanism that rapidly collected masses of these materials. Next was overcoming the detonation issues. It was a difficult challenge, but the engineers and scientists eventually figured it out. These technical feats represented the apex of scientific and engineering innovation at the time. It was July 16, 1945, and all was still in the New Mexican desert. Suddenly, an explosion ripped through the calm air, and a terrifyingly loud roar followed. The first atomic bomb, codenamed the Gadget, had just been successfully detonated at the Trinity test site. The mushroom cloud rose 12 kilometers in altitude, and the shockwave blast could be felt over 160 kilometers away. But this was nothing compared to his next blunder. He and a colleague discovered black holes by accident in 1939. Strangely, the paper was handed in on the same day that Germany attacked Poland. Oppenheimer and his colleague were playing around with Einstein's relativity equations, and they noticed something funny. It predicted that if a massive star burned through all of its fuel and collapsed on itself, the gravitational field it created would be so intense that light itself couldn't escape. This was the discovery of the black hole, and it was the first academic paper on the subject. So what did Oppenheimer do with this? Well, once again, he forgot all about it and moved on to something else which he thought would be more interesting. Black holes are very important in physics and are increasingly relevant today. If he just stuck with his efforts, who knows what could have been? This behavior would haunt Oppenheimer in the very last days of his life. The saddest part of Oppenheimer's life wasn't the humiliation of the hearings or even the detonation of the atomic bombs. His friends who knew him best knew that the real tragedy of his life was the wasted potential. They knew of Oppenheimer's frustrating brilliance, but he just simply couldn't focus and see things through. Oppenheimer's story is a stark reminder of the power that lies in human knowledge and the care that we must take in its application. As society continues to push the boundaries of science and technology, we must take note of Oppenheimer's journey and navigate our own path with a mindful balance of curiosity, responsibility, and a sense of humanity. But there is another story here, a story of Oppenheimer's personal life. It's a lesson to say, if you're good at something, don't give up. And that is the story of Oppenheimer and the Manhattan Project. Thanks for watching, and don't forget to subscribe to our channel. We'll see you in our next video.